Hi, and thanks for joining our webinar today on using personalization to increase customer engagement and jumpstart D2C commerce growth. So we'll kick this off by doing a quick introduction to myself and On. We'll talk about what is personalization, why it's important. I'll talk about some strategies for effective personalization, and then look at some case studies, lessons, and lessons learned and successes. So who am I? I'm Geoffrey Van Haeren, the co-founder and chief technologist here at Nogin. Been around the block for a while in e-commerce, over 25 years of experience. Started my first e-commerce company back in the late 90s, eventually sold that business to a company called Digital River, who was the leader in outsourced e-commerce at the time. The interesting thing about that journey was I had the opportunity to build a number of e-commerce systems. We ran some of the biggest brands in the world like Microsoft, HP, Gateway, Samsung, etc. Then myself and Jan partnered up and started Nogin. On.
Hi, everyone. My name is On. I'm the VP of Conversion Rate and Site Optimization here at Nogin. I first started my journey in fashion, working for John Varvatos and Old Navy, before moving into e-com because I knew that that was the future back in 2009. So since then, now I've been at Nogin for several years. I oversee almost 30 different websites, which is really exciting. It's like having quadruplets, literally. There's no downtime, but that's what's exciting for me. And I love to see how brands tick and what makes them tick.
And of course, the plugin for Nogin. Anyone who's been around e-commerce long enough knows that it's pretty challenging to do anything in e-commerce, including the running of big brands. Well, if there was an easy button, that would probably look like us. So what is Nogin, or who is Nogin? Well, we are the first CaaS provider, commerce as a service. We've got north of 30 brands that we run, mostly end-to-end, but we also have clients that just use us for our technology, our Nogin Intelligent Commerce platform. And that is essentially a CDP, an AI-powered customer segmentation product that has algorithmic merchandising, smart promotions, and other content capabilities for personalization. In addition to that, we've got a fractional on-demand access to our experts, so allowing our customers to use resources in ways that they need to run their business effectively. That includes everything from fulfillment and photography to performance marketing, IT, finance, and of course, customer service.
So what is personalization and why is it important? Well, just to put it simply, it's showing relevant content to your users. It could be custom messaging. It could be elements on a page and how we show it, or it could be products that we're showing to the user. In this particular example, we did an affinity test. So this particular brand had both men's and women's. So if you're in men's affinity and you could be a female shopping for her husband or boyfriend, you fall into men's affinity. And then once you start looking at female products, then you fall into women's affinity just dynamically. And in this example, it's just a simple order of banners. And you think this is such a small difference, but it actually has a really, really big impact. So we saw up to 47% higher click-through rates just from changing the order of the banners. Really, really incredible.
And on that example, that's something you probably tested, right? Like you tried some different things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so say you have a dual gender brand, you can have like a neutral page, and once they enter an experience, and then when they come back, they'll come back to that affinity experience. It works really, really great.
Makes sense.
We can also personalize merchandising. So say you're in plus size and you want to make sure plus sizes are available. Or imagine if you're a discount affinity, we can show lower prices at the top. Sure, can the user just sort by lowest to highest? However, lowest to highest price could have some low converting products at the top, right? They're marked down for a reason, maybe because they couldn't, move to begin with. So you want to have the best experience at the top as much as possible. And why do we have this? Because people have such a short attention span, right? We see some brands that users will just look at 1.1 to 1.3 products. That just means 1 to 2 products. So what you put at the top is super, super important. So the old school way of merchandising is, hey, we're going to put everything new at the top. We're going to put everything in high inventory at the top. However, high inventory could be that it didn't move. That's why we have tons of inventory, right? And just because it's at the top doesn't mean that the user is going to be interested in it. We look at impressions as well. Does it have enough sunlight? Was this product actually buried on page 5? And it could have a chance of being a bestseller. So we'll look at click-through rate, impressions, and not just click-through rate, because people could be clicking through, and imagine it has bad reviews. So we'll look at reviews and conversion rate as well, and to use all those levers. Something we noticed too at Nogin is that users hate to be forced into an action. They like to be guided, right? Without even knowing it, we're actually guiding them along that journey. But when we force them into something, they can react really badly. One of our brands is Beta Brands. So in the past, they were known for like this one trick pony, the yoga pant, right? The ultimate yoga pant. So they had a higher conversion rate by 10%. Once a user put an item in the cart, they were sent straight to the checkout. Well, we reran this again. Well, you know what? The behavior changed. Because Beta Brand actually has more products than just the yoga pant, now they have tops, they have dresses. So users are still in discovery mode. So when we reran this, it had a negative impact of 24%. And every single day I was watching this, I'm like, oh my God, conversion rate's tanking, and I just want to end the test. However, the CEO was like, oh, we're just going to let it ride. But thankfully, by day 8, I was like, okay, let's just turn it off because we want to, protect our conversion rate.
And so it sounds like there's a combination of technology to leverage all this information and data to then present the customer with a personalized experience, combined with some testing that actually has to happen to say who won and who lost and what path do we head down.
Absolutely. We can't just say, oh, we're just going to put AI on this. You have to understand who are all your segments, what are you testing, and then train that model to understand it better. You have to know how to set it up. And that's how, when you come to Nogin, we're going to take care of all of that for you. And personalization is no longer nice to have, it's a must to have. So imagine if you're a global brand, you're in Australia, New Zealand, however, you're a California brand. Well, that season is a complete opposite of California. So what we can do is actually show swimwear, short sleeves, tops and shorts to Australia, New Zealand. And we saw a positive impact, higher click-through rate by 45%. That's pretty powerful. You don't want to do that for people in LA necessarily, because since it's technically the winter, not necessarily shopping for swimwear right now. So we definitely do like the full experience from email, on-site, ads to on-site and post-purchase. Really setting up the key, like you said, Geoff, is really important. If you're a global brand, if you're dual gender, or if you have multi-segments, men's, women's, kids, plus size, petite, very, very critical.
So you'll extend that content out to the various channels like Google, Facebook, whatever, and then when the customer comes in, that journey is continued through the life cycle of the actual buying experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll talk more about that later on. So one of our powerful things that we do at Nogin is creating like that shop the look experience. In this particular example, we have it on Justice where a user clicks on shop the look, they immediately are taken down to the section where they can buy the whole look. And yes, absolutely has a positive impact to all the KPIs for conversion rate, average order value, add to cart, and UPT. However, you need to understand, does this really work across all your brands? And sometimes within a brand, it may not work across all categories. And we'll go over the next example. So when we looked at BB, like the shop the look wasn't working all the time, and we dug in deeper to see why. So when we saw that a user, when they're looking at a top or a jacket, in this example, it's a pink top, right? Or pink jacket. So the user is actually looking for this specific color and other pink tops and jackets. She might look at the alternate colorway in that same style, but for the most part, she's interested in that same color, in a top or a jacket. But in the end, she's going to buy something that's going to go with it. So now the next step was, does she behave the same when she's looking at dresses? Because BB is actually known for their dresses. Well, when we looked at this, hey, when she's looking at the sequin dress, she's actually looking at other sequin dresses. And then she's buying other sequin dresses in other colors. So that's something that we can do, is showcase similar style dresses and show similar style colors.
And so as say a model might retrain itself, we could look at colorways, we could look at product type, or all different kinds of attributes around the product to determine what is the best sort of shop the look activity or whatever.
Correct. And then because BB is known for bandage dresses, we're like, does she actually act the same way for bandage dresses, right? So we want to drill down and make sure everything. We never want to assume anything. So when she's looking at bandage dresses, she's actually looking at similar styles in different colors, and then she'll ultimately buy similar styles in different colors. So in this instance, we're not going to show shop the look. Instead, we're going to show shop similar, and we can do similar styles or similar colors, depending on what is the best case. Other things that we do at Nogin is really deploying FOMO messaging, right? Getting that sense of urgency because people have a shorter attention span. We can show things like, hey, number of views in the last 24 hours, or like a low stock message, hurry, only a few left. We can do things like showing bestsellers to new visitors or new arrivals for returning because they've already seen it. They know about the brand. They just want to see what's new. And one of our favorite things to do is deploying countdown timers, right? Absolutely works for me too. One time I was on a website where they had a timer in the cart, and they're only going to save my cart for this amount of time. And I waited to see, like, do they empty out my cart in the end? They actually don't, but that was the messaging, and it really worked. So that's a way to increase your conversion rate, reduce your cart abandonments.
And it seems like that the sort of fear of missing out is sort of a universal thing, but sometimes maybe particular segments act more favorably towards that. So you can sort of play and test different scenarios to figure out which one works, which one doesn't, or which one creates the greatest sense of urgency around the messaging. So accurate.
There's different ways for us to do it because you may not always want to see it and muck up the product page, right? There's too many elements going on. We can also dynamically do an animation that slides in and then disappears. And it works well for females, but for male customers, they're not as interested in the number of views. They're more interested in, hey, there's not going to be enough left. Some other things that we deploy too is geo-targeting, right? We can drill down to the actual city and what's actually trending in that area. In this particular example, it's California and San Francisco. And so they're going to wear darker colors, probably things that are long sleeve because it's cooler, especially in the summer too. So we want to make sure to show products that are relevant during that time. Things that we can do too is leverage weather, things that people like for style. It could be price, it could be size. We can show rain boots if it's raining. And if we can show, if it's sunny and hot, we can show board shorts, say on Hurley. So those are all different levers that we can do.
Yeah, it seems like geo-targeting is one of the more common strategies that's out. I'm not sure that or what percentage of actual brands or retailers use it, but definitely seems like it's worth using as frequently as possible, I suppose.
Absolutely. We definitely recommend that. And sometimes we're just geo-targeting for simple content messaging, right? For Prop 65, it's the law to show it in California, but we don't have to show it for anyone international or any other state. So we can curate that experience across the site. So here, we don't always want to, give away a percentage off, make everything on a promotion to convert a user. In this instance, we're just doing an exit intent tactic, and this is very effective. And like, hey, you're only X away from free shipping, continue shopping. We can also show products that gets them to the free shipping threshold. And that way you re-engage them and like, okay, well, I'm not so far from it. I can add this to the cart and then check out. So we can personalize all our upsells, cross-sells for this. And we can do it by size. So say a user purchased a size small in the past, we can actually showcase products that are available in size small. However, we don't just want to look at purchase history because the user could have purchased the wrong size. Now they're coming back to buy the correct size. So something more powerful is to combine it with their current action. What size are they putting in the cart? We can read this and actually change all of our product that we're showing to you to match the size of the user. However, you don't need to do this for every category. You want to make sure it's set correctly. If it's in dresses, chances are they're going to be the same size. But for separates, a user could be a different size at the top as what they are on the bottom. So you don't want to put a size limitation on that. It's very, very important.
So I remember in the old days where the exit intent would just be a discount, but now with personalization, you can actually curate an experience where it actually maximizes those who are going to use it and, of course, ultimately buy the product.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not just exit intent. We can also remind them what's in their cart on entrance for returning users. So we can remind them what's in the cart, or hey, based on their previous browsing history, you might also like these. So it's related to the browsing history, because browsing history, if they didn't add it to the cart, there could be a reason why. Maybe it wasn't available in their size, or they weren't ultimately interested in it. But we can show similar things based on their experience. And cart-based recommendations are really the highest converting personalization because it has high intent. So we can show this on entrance, in the cart. We can also show it on the confirmation page. We've gotten a lot of impulse buyers. So once they've already made a purchase, we've done order-based recommendations on that confirmation page on the website. And we also show it in our transactional emails, right? When they have the confirmational email or the shipping update or the shipping delivery. And that will really improve to increase retention. All right, so this is the part that we were talking about with marketing. So yes, absolutely, we personalize all of our marketing, whether it's on our email widgets. It could be the campaigns that we send out. It could be our triggers, right? Browse abandonment, cart abandonment. You don't want to just show the product that they abandoned. You want to show products that are related to it too, so you can cross-sell against it. You also put it in our transactional as well. So, and once they go back, we personalize all our experience on site. So it works from off page to on page. This is really exciting. We've been deploying this across our different stores, but lots of video ads right now, right? But you want to make it easy for the user to find what's in the video, but you're going to have multiple videos. So how do you make sure that all the products featured are going to be at the top? Well, we can do this at Nogin. So they come from a particular video ad, they're going to be taken to, say, new arrivals, and we're going to add this block at the top where it's all the products that are available in the video. One of our fallbacks could be, hey, if things start to sell out, because they do, we can put similar things to what's in the video. And then that way, we never have to worry and do manual merchandising. You want to stay away from that. And then this is actually very, very powerful. We're seeing a 2% conversion rate for this type of tactic. Other things that we can personalize is content blocks, right? In this example, it's about hyper segmentation. It's no longer about new versus returning. Now we're going into affinity. So imagine a user has an affinity for hats, or they have an affinity for hoodies and joggers. This will actually change. So if I have an affinity for hoodies and joggers, I'm going to see hoodies and joggers. And something that we can do too is, if we like lifestyle versus product, depending on the user, what are you going to interact most with? That's what we're going to be showing to you.
And those content or image blocks, those can be tied in with, say, a promotion of sorts, like, hey, this person, sort of like connecting all the dots that we've talked about up until this point, which is there's some promotional activity, there's some merchandising, and now there's specific content that's tied directly to that particular customer.
Yeah, so imagine the customer hasn't purchased in like a couple months. We can actually put in a little incentive for them to purchase. Or if they've never had purchased before, we can sweeten that deal a little bit more to try the brand out. We can definitely tie in any incentives to match the actual segment. So talking about AI and chat bots and virtual assistants, I've always been the person to just angrily say, representative, representative. And I heard one of the things that you can do is if you put any bad words, it'll actually put you up the queue that you talk to a real person. So we wonder, do chat widgets actually help or do they hinder? Because they do take up real estate, right, on the page. And imagine you're on a phone. And you would think naturally new visitors, they're going to have questions. They're going to want to talk to customer service. However, that's not the case in some brands. They actually are in discovery mode. They want to see, they want to add to the cart. They don't want to have stuff that's in the way. It's actually the returning visitors that are using the chat because they're coming back and say, hey, where's the status of my order? One of the things we try too is never underestimate and never assume. So say one of our brands, Fry, we had a sticky add to cart for mobile. Instinctively, you think that's going to be great, right? So it's always in the view. And then as they're looking at products, the user can easily add stuff to the cart. However, there's the cookie consent that was covering up the sticky add to cart. So we watched hundreds of videos to see recordings to see what's going on. And even when we made the cookie consent obnoxiously big, users were still looking at that tiny little window on their phone just to look at products because they hated to click on that cookie consent. So what we did instead was we made a pseudo sticky add to cart. And so when it's in the view, it will be, you'll be able to see the add to cart. And then when it's out of the view, it becomes sticky.
So it sounds like there's a place for technology to do things, but then there's some old school tried and true methods like go watch some videos and figure out what's happening.
Yeah, I really underestimated that one. That was really, really interesting to see. And what was so funny was when we made it obnoxiously big. So I never underestimate users for sure.
They just put on thicker glasses, I guess.
Yeah. So this one is actually talking about some real world examples and some successes that we had at Nogin, is converting first time visitors, right? If they're super, super close to the free shipping threshold, we're going to give them free shipping. So say they're 20 bucks away, 10 bucks away, they're so close, but they're ready to leave for some strange reason. We want to re-engage them. And we've done this across our portfolio. It absolutely does it convert 100%. CPG over like 43%, right? 43 and a half on apparel, almost a 32% conversion rate. So, and on one of our brands, Hurley, it had a 33% take rate for new visitors. You don't want to give this to everybody. You only want to convert new visitors into first-time customers, because once they do, they get to experience the brand. So imagine a third of the new visitors were converted on exit. That's pretty powerful. This is another test that we're running across our brands as well, is really how many products per row do they really want to see, right? And this is actually behaving differently across different brands. So in this example of its ModCloth, so on desktop, it actually had 3 products per row, but there's lots of pages. So we thought, would she want to see 4 products per row? And we were running this test and oh my gosh, every single day the conversion rate was tanking, negative 26%, negative 24%. And then we finally stopped it after 8 days because like, okay, no, definitely she doesn't want to see 4. She wants to see all the prints. She wants to see all the details within this view without having to click through to each product. However, brands like Justice, that's a busy mom. She is shopping with a purpose. So she is ready to scan, look, and buy.
It seems like there might be certain types of customers where maybe both work. So you could have a layout that's specific to a certain segment of customers that look at 3 versus 4. Maybe it's a demographic, or maybe it's like you said, it's the type of, maybe it's an age group. This is the busy mom versus the grandma or whatever it might be.
Right. So grandma might want to see bigger images, right, on her tablet. So when we do our tests, we actually can see how does it work on all our different segments then we'll create that personalization for all those different segments. But everybody else, they will see the 3 versus the 4.
Yeah.
Now, this one is really popular as well. So on average, I always say female shoppers love to see her bag, right? So I'm one of those. I will load up the bag and I will come back later, edit my bag. I'll look at it again. I might share out my bag. Meanwhile, male shoppers are more likely to shop with a purpose. They need a pair of khakis. They'll buy it in the same style in a couple colorways, and they're just going to want to leave. We did this test on BB where we showed view bag and view checkout. So why they have view bag only is because the global partner has a limitation in their technology. So for the currency to be correct for international, they can only see view bag. However, why do we want to force US visitors to experience the same thing? Let's give them the option. So when we did view bag and view checkout, it was 100% winner for just view bag. Now we're retesting this. Imagine if for US visitors, we're only showing checkout, it actually has a positive impact to conversion rate at almost 4%. So really interesting. It's still early, so we're going to keep monitoring because behaviors can change over time.
It sounds like the actual call checkout flow can be personalized based on, in this case, your country of origin or whatever.
Yes, absolutely. Another thing that we did is just updating some content messaging, right? So on beta brands, they're a little coy about, oh, get the hottest deals and their newest drops. But what they were actually doing was they're giving 20% off their first order, but they weren't saying it. So when we tested it, actually saying, hey, unlock 20% off your first order, would this make an impact? At first, I didn't think it would because the text is so tiny. I actually recommended, why don't you make it a little bit bigger? But they're like, no, we're actually really happy the way it is. They want to be very minimal. And it did have a positive impact to conversion rate, almost 9.5% higher conversion rate. So even tiny, small changes can have a big impact. Sometimes we're educating our brands, and sometimes we're having to educate our consumers. So in this instance for Karen Kane, they have this collection called Everyday Essentials, which in the industry we talk about essentials as the basics, right? In this case, it was actually bestsellers. But if you're a new visitor, you don't know what essentials is. So we renamed it bestsellers for new visitors, and it had a 2 times higher click-through rate for new visitors. Meanwhile, returning, they already know what the essentials are. She knows where to shop. She knows where to click.
So that's a particular case where you can segment based on, is this a new customer versus an existing customer?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple use case. Okay.
Yep. So then here, this is the FOMO tactic that we talked about earlier. And then so on Hurley, for the male customers, they weren't really affected by the number of views, but they were affected by how much inventory is left. However, it was more effective with returning and loyal customers because they already know about the brand. And then they're, oh my gosh, we have to buy this right away. But if you're new and you're still in discovery, that FOMO tactic may not necessarily work because I'm still discovering. So it's always important to have. And I definitely think it's a very strong tactic. No matter if you're new or returning, I think it's just best practice just to have it. But you can see it has a much bigger impact on returning and loyal. Some other things that we can do too is adding in a content messaging. So in this instance is to build trust. So instead of just showing more payment options, which people do like, they like to see that, hey, there's Apple Pay, Google Pay, Amazon Pay. However, we just changed that messaging to be the safer, easier way to pay. And boom, over 17% higher click-through rate. And we talked about the complete look before. This is on Hurley. So when we curated, before we had like the cross-selling, right? Things that she can mix and match and all that. But when we hyper curate a look where, hey, here's the matching bottom, but you know what? You can have this like cover up that goes really well with the outfit. And it actually, that bundle, as simple as it is, and it's really small, had 138% higher conversion rate versus just regular cross-selling. So we totally recommend doing a combination of both to really make it powerful.
So you can have products that are connected together, and then you can have products that are upsold and cross-sold, based on, say, machine learning models or whatever. But the combination of the two drives the greatest conversion rate kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. So just to summarize everything, it's really important to understand the who, right? Who are all your different segments? And then you can address the what and then when along the journey. So what are you going to do and when along the journey? So that way you can understand how to set the rules and the learning for the machine learning. And always, always test, 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 and learn, because like the beta brand example, the consumer behavior changed over time, right? Never assume anything. And something that I like to remind brands is sometimes ugly works. So, I mean, Amazon is not that pretty of a site, but it converts really well, right? So we don't always want to think about just design aesthetics. We want to balance both, making everybody happy, but you need to understand that sometimes ugly works. And what works on one brand may not work on another. So never assume anything, but because we have so many brands in our portfolio, we've actually gathered all the best practices. On average, this is what we're going to do for most brands. And then here's things we're going to test. And then now we can learn how to personalize it, because personalization is ongoing and changing. It's not set it and forget it, because users will change, technology changes. Imagine with remote work right now, we used to be all mobile, mobile, mobile. But, so say I'm at work, I had a nosy colleague looking over my shoulder, I'm likely going to be on my break shopping on my phone, or if my boss is walking by, right? But if we're remote now, people are at home. And then so they could be taking a break and staying on their laptop. We're seeing that resurgence back to desktop again. So we are also looking at how we're personalizing that desktop experience, depending on the brand, depending on the user behavior. And then hyper segmentation, totally, totally key when we want to marry all that off-page experience. When we say off-page, on email, digital marketing, and then when they go back on page onto the website, and then they make a purchase to that post-purchase, and rinse and repeat.
Well, this was terrific. Really appreciate all the insights, the case studies, the application of what it is to do personalization, particularly as it applies to specific customer examples. Great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So thank you everyone for your time. Hope you enjoyed
Thanks.
this presentation from Nogin.